This is Fieldsports Channel News. The top 5 UK manifestos are out, so let's have a look at how good they are for country sports. Languishing at number 5 is the Green Party, which keeps its commitment to ban all blood sports. A faller to number 4 is Labour, which wants to ban trail hunting and presumably dog walking, and wants to attempt to replace African wildlife with cattle by banning trophy imports. The Lib Dems are up to number 3 with no plans for country sports apart from a ban on muirburn in England. The Conservatives are a riser to the number 2 slot with a wishy-washy commitment not to ban trail hunting. Straight in at number 1 this election is Reform, which wants to protect all country sports. Charlie spent 20 minutes talking to farmer and former MP Neil Parish about the party promises, what goes on behind the scenes and why he believes now is a good time for a revolution. There's a link to it below.
But of course the danger of voting Reform is you split the right-wing vote and Reform won't get in, Labour will get in and Liberal Democrats. I mean, the Labour and Liberals, the left wing of the left-wing vote must be laughing all the way to the bank at the moment as they see the Tory party and Reform split themselves down the middle. I have never seen it in 40 years of political life, have I ever seen the right-wing vote split. So therefore, any that are keen to vote Reform, I respect their views, but just think of the consequences.
Talking of manifestos, the organisation that represents anglers is launching one of its own. The Angling Trust is urging whoever is voted into power to help clean up Britain's waterways. Its CEO, Jamie Cook, announces 10 policies he wants to see implemented by the new government. They include reforming the water industry, abolishing the regulator Ofwat, supporting angling rights and taking action to reverse the decline in salmon stocks in the UK. You can see the full list of demands by clicking on the link below. The group that represents 7 million hunters across Europe is lobbying the new candidate elected to the European Parliament. David Scallon, General Secretary of the European Federation for Hunting and Conservation, FACE, calls on every candidate voted into Brussels in the recent election to recognise the contribution hunting brings. He says hunters spend more than 16 billion euros every year and make a major contribution to conservation.
And we look forward to all of the support we can get, because the European Parliament is a really important institution when it comes to decision making in Brussels.
There are clean fights and there are dirty fights. This is a brutal scrap between 2 roebucks. A stalker filmed this footage on his ground in Norfolk on Monday. He says the buck on the ground is a year younger than the one giving it a beating. Even though the bigger buck eventually runs off, the stalker says it did try and come in again. Incredibly, the deer on the ground caught its breath and also ran off. Our viewer says there appeared to be no other puncture wounds than one in the shoulder and showed no signs of a pierced lung. He knows the buck's territory and is going to keep a close eye to see if he needs to step in and dispatch it. There are concerns from the field sports community in Scotland about new powers granted to Scotland's animal rights group, the SSPCA. Bask urges the Scottish Government to look carefully at evidence of wildlife crimes that the Scottish Society for the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals gathers for potential prosecution. It has previously declared it is anti-shooting. The new Wildlife Management and Muirburn Bill enhances its powers.
Our members have serious concerns around this, given the SSPCA's publicly stated opposition to lawful shooting activities. BSC has written to Police Scotland and the Procurator Fiscal seeking assurance going forward.
Garran ponies will take centre stage at this week's Royal Highland Show in Edinburgh. Neil Rowntree and Rory Ormiston, whose family have been working with Highland ponies for over 150 years, will take to the arena at the show to explain the history of the pony and its role within the crofting community and sporting estates.
Quite a responsibility to try and keep the heritage going and keep the bloodlines and the ponies going. Yeah, they just feel like they're part of the family.
And there's a link to a longer piece with Rory in the description below. The Countryside Alliance gets a big cheque and a request to use a record-breaking donation raised by clay pigeon shooters in Yorkshire to press the case of the countryside. After 3 days of the Water Priory charity event, organisers presented a cheque for £205,000 to the Alliance. A 2-day simulated game day, a ball and auction lots including a 200 bird day at the famous venue, a trip for a VIP lunch in France in a private plane for 8 people, and a beginner's course to learn how to toboggan on the Cresta Run raised the cash. And here's what Water Priory's shoot manager Frank Croft wants the Countryside Alliance to do with the money.
A general election's coming up. We'd like to see them get in there, being really passionate and fighting for every little bit of field sports, not just shooting, all field sports. Get in there and represent us.
Donald Trump has paid a visit to Safari Club International's Hunters Embassy in Washington, D.C. He met officials and discussed US policy, including discussions about land access, the right to bear arms, ammunition and hunting freedom. He also stopped to give one of his now familiar off-the-cuff speeches to the watching audience.
You have to get out and vote. For some reason, people that own rifles, people that own guns don't vote. Nobody knows why. Maybe it's an expression of rebellion. But we want you to get out and vote. We have to win this election. We have the worst president in the history of our country, and we have to get him out. If we don't get him out, this country is not going to exist, or certainly not the way it's supposed to be. So I just want to thank the Safari Club and all of the great work that you do, and it's an honor to be with you. Thank you very much.
The New Zealand government has told hunters it will consult with them over new firearms legislation to ensure that sensible decisions are made. Associate Justice Minister Nicole McKee announced a reform of gun laws dating back 40 years. She plans to rewrite the Arms Act by 2026, with a ban on semi-automatic guns expected to be at the centre of the reforms. The law covers an estimated 100,000 gun owners in New Zealand. All guns have to be registered and their owners must be members of a gun club to get a licence. The New Zealand government has already instigated transferring the Firearms Safety Authority from police to another government department. Are you a hunter? Are you a gun shop? Are you a field sports enthusiast? Have you ever been banned from posting on social media? We want to know, so we can use our influence with social media platforms to make changes. Has a ban affected your business or how you interact with friends and family online? Fieldsports Channel plans to take social media giants to task, and we need your help. Tell us about your experiences by taking our survey. Link below. And finally, we've been looking for a way to link field sports with the European Football Championships, and we found it in Norway, thanks to viewer Per Holmseth. This clip has been doing the rounds on Instagram, showing reindeer displaying the kind of skills Gareth Southgate needs to help England win the title. Names proposed for the animals on display range from Rudolf van Nistelrooy and Cristiano Ronaldo to Rain Rooney. You are now up to date with Fieldsports Channel News. Stalking the stories, fishing for facts.